Good afternoon and welcome to What's Going On. And I am your host, Kathy Blaze Jefferson. Today, I am so excited to have our guests, Miss Chanay Banks and Miss Juanita Banks Whittington. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Such a pleasure, such a pleasure. Miss Juanita, I have to say, you look like a good friend of mine.
Well, thank you very much. I hope it was good things.
She's a beautiful person. Well, welcome to What's Going On. We're so excited to have you ladies here today to discuss what it is that you both do. I know that you're both co founders of your organization, and I'm going to read over a bio that I received for Miss Shanae, and then I'll have Juanita tell us a little bit about herself, okay?
Okay.
Chanay Banks, an experienced higher education professional whose work is grounded in equity, access, and student advocacy. Driven by her lived experiences in kinship care, Shanae has transformed personal adversity into a mission driven commitment to supporting youth and families facing systemic barriers. Shanae is the co founder of Charlene's Circle of Support, a CAN focused social impact organization dedicated to building sustainable pathways for youth and caregivers through education, resources, and community centered support. Her work reflects a full circle approach to service, leveraging professional expertise and lived experience to create lasting impact and a legacy of empowerment with kinship communities. So, Miss Juanita, can I have you give us just a little bio of you?
Yes, so I am a Army veteran, a licensed social worker here in Maryland, and a children's book author. A lot of my work is really based around identity for youth, as well as I develop all of the programs for Charlene Circle of Support, the nonprofit that me and my sister founded together to support youth and their caregivers whose parents may be dealing with substance abuse, incarceration, or mental health illness.
That is awesome. That is beautiful. And I like to know where did the name come from? What does it mean to you, ladies?
So Charlene,
Yeah,
our mom, Charlene, that's her name. That was her name, and she passed away suddenly in 2018. So we're doing this in memory of her. So
wonderful.
that's what a Charlene circle
That
of support. And for us, we always had a circle of support. As I mentioned, my sister and I had lived experience in kinship care, and our family was our circle of support. So when we were thinking of names, we wanted to, of course, honor our mom, and then we tied in the circle of support because now we're going to be circle of support for youth and caregivers.
right, right. That is beautiful. Yeah, do you know what? Most people don't think about how big of an issue this is that we have youth out here living and supporting themselves, living on the streets, and they don't have family members, or they do have family members, but there's not any relationship there for them to be cared for. So organizations such as yours is so important in today's world. So I want to thank you both for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you told us why you started the program, and it is a nonprofit, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Is this was this started because of personal reasons?
yes, correct. So I knew I wanted to start the nonprofit, but initially it was just going to be the direction in which we went with the nonprofit. So that's when I went to my sister Juanita and I came up with the idea, just getting her backing and support to start the nonprofit in memory of our mom. And since I have a higher education background, I initially was going to target youth that needed scholarships and things of that nature when they're attending college. And then my sister has that social work background, and then
Mhm.
that's when she suggested that we target the youth that are dealing with the parents that have the mental illness, substance abuse, and incarceration. So for
Okay.
us, we tied into our lived experience, and then once we started doing more research about the youth that we were going to target, the great thing is that's in the state of Maryland because that's where we're working. That's when we realized that in the state of Maryland, the term when caregivers are taking care of the youth,
Mhm.
relatives, that term is kinship care. And
Okay.
that became a full circle moment because when we were born, as soon as we were born, we were placed in the care of our grandmother. And then once
Okay.
she couldn't raise us anymore, we were placed in the care of our aunt. So we
Okay.
did not even know there was a term for it. And then we were
Right.
definitely excited about that. And then now we're on our, this kin journey to support youth and their caregivers in the state of Maryland.
Right. Did you have something to say, Juanita?
No, I'm just shaking my head, agreeing. Yes, everything that she's saying is true. Yeah.
And I'm quite sure there's a lot of people that have never heard of the term kinship care. So that's a word we need to use more frequently because there's so many family members that are taking care of someone else's child in their family. So that's a word that I will continue to use after this live also because they need to know what they're doing. And not
Yes.
only that, we're going to, before I jump in, I don't want to say that, but some of the programs, what are some of the major programs that you offer through your program?
So our major programs, initially we started with our care package program, and we created two sides to the care package program where we support the youth, and we created personalized care packages for the youth. And then once we realized, it would be great to support the caregivers as well, that's
Hmm.
when we created a basic needs necessity care package where that pertains to household items. So you're going to get your laundry detergent, toilet paper, and things of that nature for the house, just to, help with that need and that cost. And then that's when Juanita, I don't know if she mentioned it. She's being a little modest right now, and I get it. She also has written a few books. So with her
Okay.
being she has her children books, and then she has also her books for teens. And she created her books, and one of the books' names is I Matter. So she has one for teen boys and girls, and we piggybacked off of that I Matter term to create the I Matter Kinship Empowerment Program, and
Yeah.
that's our dual impact program. And then as we started realizing, okay, what do these kinship caregivers need? We have our Kinship and Thriving program where that's virtual in the state of Maryland, and it doesn't matter what county you're in because Maryland is county based, and everyone can join it virtually. And then we have in-person support as well.
Okay. Okay. And what I did want to say, because I wanted you to talk about all the programs that you offer, is that our communities don't know what benefits that are out there for their children that they're raising out there. I mean, they're trying to stumble upon and do all this on their own. So being associated with an organization like yourself helps them to figure out what support they have out there other than what they're trying to do on their own. So,
Right.
are you guys affiliated with the state programs that provides that information so that you're able to disseminate it to all the individuals that you work with?
And that's a good question to ask and a great segue. So, what we initially wanted to do was partner with the state agency, partner with the different organizations on the state level. Number one, to create that partnership and create that leverage and cohesive information for the families so
Hmm.
that if they're done there with Department of Social Services or DHS, there's certain services and barriers where, okay, they cannot assist anymore due to the case being closed, and then for us, we're going to continue services no matter where they are in their journey and no matter where they are with their case. But
Oh,
another thing we try to make sure is that per county and then on a state level, we understand the resources based on the county and what those caregivers and the youth are able to have access to as well.
okay. So with the population that you serve, are they predominantly individuals that aren't in a system? They may be in a household with a family and they're no longer in the system? Or do you support those that may be still in the system with DES or I don't know, foster care or someone like that?
Yeah, so with our program, we support youth from the ages of 1 or even babies all the way up to the age of 18. Majority of the kinship caregivers, what they're doing is they're preventing foster care
Oh,
placement.
okay.
So some of them that we find and we meet may already have a case with Department of Social Services, but a
Okay.
lot of our families may not want to go to social services. So
Sure.
we find a lot of them through the schools. So we
Okay.
go through the pupil personnel workers, through the schools, counselors, just anyone at the schools that may know of who we are, or I may hand out a flyer and they're spreading the word about us. We're also going through programs like your CASAs, because not every
Mm-hmm.
child may be placed in foster care for say, because there are forms of kin foster. There's
Right.
also ways now with the new legislation with Governor Wes Moore for his Kin First initiative, where a lot of the youth are going into foster kin. So they're
Mm,
able to still kind of have the foster care term, but it's still with a
but
family
then, okay.
member.
And
But
you know what? That's where we want to do our best to keep them. If it's a safe environment and familiarity, I can't get that word out. They're with family. That's where we want to keep them if we can. So I love that. And that was going to be my next question. And you talked about it. How are you getting the word out? And you're going to the I'm going to say the horse's mouth. You're going to the schools. You're going to the local programs, because those are the people that see that. Those are the people that are out there doing the footwork, such as yourselves. So, are there any other ways that you guys are getting the word out?
yeah, social media, that's a big thing. Word of mouth, going places. I find myself a lot of times going to different community networking events. And when I'm there, I'm just talking to the different individuals there about who we are.
Okay.
And different table events. When we get our information out to different community people, then that's when they'll reach out to us and they'll say, "Hey, we have a table event." And what we also find is, depending on the community, so there may be for Department of Aging, we realize there's an alignment there because a
Mm,
lot of our caregivers are older. So
ah,
things like that, we had to start being really creative because, to your point, like you mentioned before, the term kinship can get lost because it doesn't lead with foster care. So
right.
then we may have to do a little bit more explaining. But then once they realize that these youth may or may not be in the child welfare system, but then the
Mm,
kinship caregivers are also preventing them from staying in the child welfare system and
okay.
creating that sense of stability for the youth. So a lot of times we're just being creative. Another thing we're starting to do is then also when we recruit interns,
Mm,
we're letting them know, let people know about our services on the college campuses, and
yeah.
then different food banks, churches. So we really had to be creative when it came to our organization, and then also who our population that we serve.
Yeah, those are great ideas. I'm just sitting here sucking it all in because those are total great ideas. How um how does the community and other organizations such as, let me say, DES and those organizations, how do are they open to you guys and supporting of you guys?
They have been very open and supporting. Of course, they get it. So a lot of those state agencies, as soon as we explain or we say the term, they understand it. But I also think it's from a point of this is new. A lot of
Mm,
community partners in the state of Maryland, their focus is foster care. So
mm,
now that we're pushing our initiative and we're kin focused, I think a lot of organizations and state agencies are like, wow, this is something really new. They know it's needed. So now we're grooming those relationships, continuing to stay transparent so that they understand you can trust us and we're
yeah.
here to stay.
Yes, yes, and you're here
Mhm.
to stay. You have to remind them of that.
Mhm.
How can you name some ways? Are there any other ways that your community or other organizations can support you?
Yes, definitely. So one of the
Mhm.
biggest things, Shanae mentioned that we have a care package program. So the same way that you see people doing toys for tots or collecting food for your local food bank, we're looking for donation drive partners. These are your businesses and different churches and organizations that can collect
Mm,
household items for us. That's
yeah.
really, really important to be able to support our families, as every time we show up with the bag that has the laundry detergent, the paper
Yes,
towels, grandmothers are like, oh my
of
goodness, thank you so
course.
much. It means so much to them. Even
Right.
when we're showing up with the non-perishable canned
Mhm.
goods and stuff for them with that care package, they are so grateful. So
Of
ways people can
course.
support is by donating or becoming a donation drive partner with us. That's one
Yeah.
of the biggest things. And in order for us to continue to do the work that we're doing, one of the other things that we're looking for is different partners to come in to be facilitators with volunteers. We're looking for individuals that would be interested in doing social media and taking
Mm.
pictures at our events. So those are like really big things. And of course, just being able to maybe do a donation just to keep continue to support the work that we're doing.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And one way of looking at it, everything is so expensive right now.
Mhm.
Just think if you're a grandmother on a limited income and you've taken in three children, okay, three school age children, and you now have to support three more mouths and purchase clothes and detergent and pay all of the things for taking care of yourself. I mean, that's a hardship on that person. But they
Yeah.
decided to take those three babies in. So, I mean, offering whatever support we can give is so important for when you think of someone like that. So, please help as much as you can. That is such a great way of supporting your organization is by giving those items to your do you have a name for your program for your donation program or is
Yes, the donation drive partner. So everything that we do is Charlene's Circle of Support. It is the Charlene's Closet that we have for our care packages. And then I know Shanae kind of talked about it before, but we have the Kinship and Thriving series where that is whole all wellness based. So we are pouring into our caregivers, talking about those difficult conversations with
yeah.
them when it comes to where's mommy and daddy. We
Mm,
get a lot of our caregivers that are 55 all the way up to 77, and
yeah,
they're like, what is autism? So
yeah,
again, if we could get the support of someone that has a background in
right.
those different things to come in and talk to the families about those things, because they really want to be poured into. They're really looking for a circle. And that's
Of
what's in our
course.
name, Charlene Circle of Support. So we're not just handing out laundry detergent. We're
Hmm.
actually here building a circle for women, men, grandparents, and family members that are stepping up and being that backbone for the families that, are sometimes not even thought of.
Right.
Mhm.
That
And a lot
is
of them always mention sometimes they operate in silos or they don't even know other caregivers. And
yes.
if they do know of other caregivers, of course, they're not communicating or talking to them. So the
Hmm.
main thing we always get is they're just so thankful we're here,
Yes.
thankful that we chose this path. And as Juanita said, just walking alongside them and continuing to be that circle of support because they're older. And like you mentioned, Kathy, the change, they're
Yeah.
older on a fixed income, youth are maybe acting out, so in the
Yes.
generations, the difference in the generation and the understanding. So what we didn't want caregivers to do was be burnt out,
Oh,
and that's why we
yes.
was really strategic about, we could have easily just targeted the youth and created our youth programs all around youth. But what we wanted to make sure was that whole dual impact family support is
Yes,
on
it
both
it
ends
goes
and be
together. Yes.
correct.
And because what good would your program be if the caregivers are burnt out and they can't do it anymore? So they
Correct.
need that support. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of times we forget about them. We
Hmm.
talk about the children and everyone else, but we forget it. That's just like a household. You know, a lot of times in
Hmm.
our own household, we talk about what everyone else's needs are, but we forget about that one person that gets up every morning, cooking the breakfast, going to work, coming home, cooking dinner, cleaning, and doing all those things. And we forget about the burnout that that person may have. So that that portion of taking care of the caregiver is so important, so important.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Shanae or Juanita? Juanita, I know you said you have to leave a little early. Is there anything else you want to add before you have to take off?
My biggest thing is statistics. So I kind of want to just share some numbers with you guys before I go. So this is not a localized issue. In the US, it's over 2.5 million youth that are living with a family member or
Mm,
relative. And in the state of Maryland, over 66,000 youth are with in kinship care. Of
mm,
that 66,000, 43,000 in the state of Maryland are living with a grandparent. Those numbers are really, really big. And one of the things that Shanae really didn't cover when we first got on was that majority of our families don't even qualify to receive any services.
mm,
So yes, some might have went to social services, but
mm,
a lot of them may not have. And now they don't qualify for anything because they don't have an active case of neglect. So they'll
mm.
never be able to receive some of the different stipends that are out there. It's only for new cases. So
Right.
all of your grandmothers and friends of families that had kids for months or years before they even knew about this new assistance that's been out since 2024 are receiving no type of support.
Mm,
We hear a lot of foster care. That is every time we go in a room, everyone is asking about that. But this is foster care prevention, and this is just as important. So I
yeah,
just kind of wanted to push that and just let everyone know that there's so many families out here, and many of you may have grown up living with a family member, or you may have cousins that live with an aunt or uncle. Those are the families that we're here for. Those are
yeah.
the families that we want to make sure that the whole world and everyone in the state of Maryland knows that Charlene Circle of Support is here, and we need your support to push this, and we cannot do it alone.
That is awesome, and those numbers are huge. And you know what? It's like a double whammy there because you spoke about them not being able to get support. If you think about it, a lot of our we're talking about grandparents that may be up in their 70s and sometimes in their 80s because you know what? Sometimes they're raising a child of their own that may be disabled. So they may have that person in their home also, or a grandchild that may be disabled. But a lot of times, because they're on Medicare and Social Security, they make too much, maybe $10 or $15 too much. Can you imagine
Hmm.
$10 or $15? It's not like you can give it back to them and say, keep it, I don't want it. Too much to get those other benefits because of that $10 or $15. I've
Yeah, we
heard
hear those stories all the
Stories
that.
all,
time.
yes,
They're
we
Yeah.
do.
calling us,
Hmm.
they're
Mhm,
sending emails.
mhm.
We hear those things all the time. But again, it's this it's like a is unsung heroes is what I call them. And it's just something that a lot of people don't think about, because when you think about the news or you think about the commercials, you see the little dog that's in
They
the
look so
pound,
happy.
and they're, yeah, and they're
Yeah.
crying. Or you'll
Mhm,
see, well, everything is that, well, we're going to put them in foster care and we have to
mhm.
support the foster care, which yes
Yeah.
we do, but it's still the kinship along the way, because without
Right.
the kinship caregivers, those numbers would be even higher.
Yes, that is true. That is
And we
true.
also know culturally in the African American community, we already know we probably didn't apply the kinship term to it, but
Mm,
we all know everyone went to grandma.
that's true.
Everyone had an aunt that stepped in, or a cousin or a family member that did step in. But
Hmm.
now that the economy has changed, culturally things have changed. So
That's true.
support is the changes are fine, but now have that support. Now that things are evolving, let's have that continued support of each family.
And it's changed also culturally because too the grandma has changed. She's not
Hmm.
like our grandmas used to be. She's a younger grandma that's still out there and may still have children of her own at home, and it's hard for her to bring in two or three more babies. But
Hmm.
the grandmas that we're used to, and the grandmas, there are still a lot of grandmas that still take their kids, their family in. I'm not saying that, but there's a lot that can't and don't because of their own personal situations right now. So
Hmm.
we still have to get it out. Maybe it does, there's an aunt or there's an uncle or there's someone that can still care for that child. So knowing that terminology and being able to spread it will be so important for our communities.
Correct. And honestly, I was surprised too because as we're meeting families, we are seeing additional races that are showing up. But I think for us in our African American community,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so common and you
Yeah.
think about it as we knew grandma was going to do what she
Yeah.
had to do for the
Yeah.
babies,
Mm-hmm.
I could see how it easily got overlooked. But then when you see that it's systematic and you see that, now youth are being shifted through the child welfare system, and now
Yeah.
this is a way to create the stability. So
Mm.
let's not create the barriers while that child is having that stability. Because
Right.
for Juanita and I, if we did not have our grandmother step in or our aunt step in, we would have definitely been in the foster care system.
Mhm. Well,
But
well,
all our family came together. You
well,
know.
I'm sure you know, Shanae, from your research and everything, that the system was set up that way a while ago, is for our children to be taken out of the homes and to be placed into
Mhm.
these systems. And it was all
Mhm.
it's a money making thing, is what it is for them.
Right.
So
Mhm.
organizations such as yourself is going to kind of bend that system a little bit so that our kids are being
Mhm.
taken care of and our families are whole. Because if we
Yes.
keep the families together, we're making them whole and healthy and loving. So our
Mhm.
families need to stay together.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before that is very important to this topic before we get out of here today?
Another additional thing, we are opening in the state of Maryland the first kinship resource hub. It's going to be located in Anne Arundel County. And the great thing about that is we'll be able to see families in person, and then we'll be able to have our classes in person. And then over the summer, we'll be able to do a lot more things with them as well, as we grow. So we're so excited about that to be able to service our families soon in the next coming months in person.
That is wonderful. I just wanted to see on the comments we have a Miss Tiffany Lewis there. I
Mhm.
look like happy faces that she gave you.
Okay.
And we have a Mr. Michael Davis. Hello, I am a single dad, single man, and
Old school.
old
He's old
school.
school. If you say
Okay.
he's old school, yeah. Yeah, and
And
surprisingly, we actually do have a grandfather.
okay,
We have one. We support one granddad. We were so excited
yes.
to meet him. He's
Oh,
had his grandchildren since they were born. And he's
yes.
in his 70s and they're teenagers.
Yes,
They're about
yes.
13 or
Our our
14.
our dads
Uh-huh.
and our grandfathers, they do it too. I mean, it may look a
Yes.
little different, but they do it
Mhm.
as well. And we
Yes.
have a We Are Divine Woman. Praise God.
Yes. So yes, and this was great too, just to get the word out there more. What we're realizing too, it's like we keep saying, people aren't used to kinship support, and especially it seems like they weren't used to that community support in Maryland. We did some research and we're seeing it all throughout statewide, other states. But it didn't come to Maryland. So we're just so happy that on the community level that
Yeah,
we're able to support families, especially through our lived experiences.
that is awesome. I love what you do, Shanae. Is there any events coming up that you like to talk about, or before we leave? Anything that I know you have the new program, but are there any
Mhm.
events you're going to be at, or vending, or
So our
anything?
ribbon cut. So we are going to do an official ribbon cutting for the Kinship Resource Hub, and that's going to be March 26th.
Okay.
and it's in Crownsville, Maryland. So I don't know if anyone else is watching that's in Maryland, but if you are in Maryland, that's going to be on March 26th at 10 a.m. It's going to be from about 10 to 1. And you'll take a tour of the space that we're in. There'll
Oh,
be some kinship caregivers there talking, and different community partners. We'll talk more about our programs and more things that we have coming up as well for the year.
oh, okay. Okay. So you guys are opening up your location. Are
Yeah,
Do you have plans to have programs on site for the kids or offer
yes.
trainings on site also?
Absolutely. Yes, that's the plan. So what we're working around, because the only thing right now is we can't access the building on the weekends because it's a shared space. So we're working on just logistics, and then prayerfully as time goes on and just changes, we'll also be able to do weekends. But we will definitely be having programming throughout the week. And we have up to a certain time that we'll be able to have our families in the building. And the really cool thing about it is we're the first organization in the building that will actually be having families in the building.
Okay.
Everyone else just uses it as a working office. So they're so excited because we'll actually have families that are in the building as well.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Mhm.
That was awesome. It was so great to have you here today. And Miss Shanae, where can our audience find you?
So all social media platforms is Charlene Circle of Support. So I really
Okay.
appreciate your time and thank you so much for having me.
It was such a pleasure to have you. And thank you all for joining us here today. And we will catch you next time on What's Going On.